logic was that basically you can't teach swimming through a textbook. But मुझे लगता है कि when you're trying to create social impact, it is very important to ensure that your impact is there. This whole experience gave us this idea that अगर हम ये चीज education system में ले, that's the story of learning curve.
Hello and welcome to our podcast, guys. Today we have Subbu with us. Welcome, Subbu. Welcome to my podcast.
Hi Ayush, thank you so much for having me here.
Awesome. Yeah, Subbu and I know each other for quite a long time now. And Subbu, why don't we start with basic introductions? Why don't you tell me something about yourself, about your background?
Okay, so yeah, my name is Subbu. I'm a Bombay boy, born and brought up in Bombay, and believe it or not, I'm a pharmacist by training. So I'm a pharmacy graduate and went to work pretty early. I think I was hardly 21 when I started working, and did a 15-year stint in the pharma industry. After that, medical sales, sourcing, program management, etc. Then basically, that's mostly my professional background. Did a stint in consulting as well, and from there on, basically, we also set up Learning Curve, which is a social enterprise really focusing on social emotional skills for underserved children in India. So that's kind of my professional background, if you like. Otherwise, I'm a big fan of travel. I love traveling. I love reading. I do a lot of reading myself, and generally, I enjoy connecting with people and having meaningful conversations. So this sort of a conversation is a lot of fun for me. So thanks again for having me here.
Wonderful. So why don't you tell me a little bit about Learning Curve now?
Okay. So let me give you a. So I think maybe I should give you the backstory of
Definitely. How
Learning
did you
Curve,
come
right?
up with the
Where
idea?
it all started, right?
Yeah.
Where it all started. So sometime in the year 2013-14, when I had stepped out of my corporate and I had my consulting practice, me and my wife basically went to volunteer for a girls' shelter here in Hyderabad. And when we walked into the girls' shelter, the caregivers usually had the usual request, right? They needed, donations, and they needed help with the girls' academics and things like that. So we said, we will help them with their academics, because usually that is a big problem, because some of them were going to ninth and 10th and they were falling behind in studies, etc. So this was like a girls' shelter run by missionary nuns, and there were about 40 girls there, right? Some of them were orphans, semi-orphans, etc. So we started going in there every Sunday and helping them with their academics. So groups बनाते थे उनके साथ, थोड़ा फिजिक्स के एक्सरसाइजेस करना, केमिस्ट्री करना वगैरह. लेकिन 3 महीने गुजर गए. 3 महीने गुजरने के बाद हमको एक अजीब सा लग रहा था. एक चीज हमको लग रहा था कि वो शायद वो लड़कियां हम पे भरोसा नहीं करती. We didn't feel that trust was there. वो openness नहीं था. Friendly तो थे, they were all very friendly, they were happy to see us. लेकिन somewhere अंदर से लग रहा था कि कुछ fit नहीं हो रहा है, right? So we started asking the caregivers कि what is their background, क्या हुआ है उनके साथ. तो वो जो stories उसके बाद निकल आए ना, तो उससे हमको लगा कि there were a lot of stories of trauma. There were a lot of stories of abuse that they had gone through. जितना इन्होंने उस उम्र में violence देखा है, शायद किसी और को देखना भी नहीं चाहिए. तो the big thing that happened, the realization that happened is that उनका जो अपने आप से जो रिश्ता होना चाहिए या दुनिया के साथ जो relationship होना चाहिए, तो वो था नहीं. They didn't have a sense of self. They didn't have a sense of identity. वो belonging नहीं था उनका. तो तभी हमको ये हिट हुआ, राइट, कि अगर अपना ही सेल्फ अगर स्ट्रांग नहीं है, तो फिर फिजिक्स और मैथ्स का आप क्या करेंगे, राइट? तो आपका सेंस ऑफ सेल्फ, आपका एबिलिटी टू बिल्ड रिलेशनशिप्स, आपका एबिलिटी टू मैनेज थिंग्स अराउंड यू, नेविगेट दिस वर्ल्ड, ये सब अगर हम नहीं करते हैं तो क्या करेंगे फिजिक्स का डिग्री लेके. तो तभी वो रियलाइजेशन आया हमको कि यार, अगर हम लोग को कुछ करना है इनके लिए, तो अलग से कुछ करना है, नॉट द सेम थिंग. So then we started reading more कि ये सब क्या होता है, सेंस ऑफ बिलोंगिंग का मतलब क्या है, सेंस ऑफ सेल्फ एस्टीम क्या होता है. And then slowly we started changing our way of working with them. तो फिर हमने पूरा almost a mentoring kind of a role लिया. फिर संडे जाते थे, लेकिन we used to sit with them differently. We used to talk to them We used to understand what they are going through, how to deal with their own emotions वगैरह. And ये एक साल चला. तो every Sunday half a day हम जाते थे वहाँ पे, and our little son used to come with us, so he used to come with us as well. तो उसके लिए भी थोड़ा सा play हो जाता था. तो we used to go the whole year we spent with them. In 6 months में we started to see some of that थोड़ा सा magic दिखने लगा. उनका थोड़ा they were opening up a bit more, they were expressing themselves better. उनका जो aggression था, उनका जो stress level था, वो थोड़ा कम हो रहा था. एंड उनका जो एबिलिटी था पढ़ाई करने का, जो एकेडमिक्स का जो एबिलिटी था, वो भी बढ़ रहा था. They were getting calmer about it. They were able to focus, etc. So this whole experience gave us this idea that अगर हम ये चीज एजुकेशन सिस्टम में ले आते, ये अगर स्कूल्स में हो जाता है, तो whatever experience a child is able to withstand it, to cope with it. जो resilience आना है वो आएगा, जो self esteem बढ़ना है वो बढ़ेगा, and they'll be able to navigate themselves, right? And that's really where the idea of learning curve came. फिर उसके बाद हमको 2 साल लगे थोड़े pilots वगैरह करने में. We did in low income schools, and then 2016 में officially that started. So that's the story of learning curve.
Yeah, so you gave us a background. Why don't, for our listeners, you tell about learning curve, like what exactly learning curve is, what learning curve does?
Right. So learning curve is a non-profit organization. It works like a social enterprise, but it's a non-profit organization. So first thing I'll tell you why we set it up as a non-profit, because we said that 85% of the country's children study in public schools with very limited access to good infrastructure, to good quality of teaching, etc. जो बच्चे जो ओकरेज या चिरेक्स जैसे स्कूल में जाते हैं, वो शायद top 2 या 3% में होते हैं. Right? Everybody else doesn't afford that kind of a school. So one is, that is why we said that we don't want to make money from this. We want to make this accessible to everybody. So firstly, we set it up as a non-profit, and what we do basically is that our whole work is focused around bringing social emotional learning to the school. Right now, social emotional learning basically comprises of all of those things which are not academics, but are almost an essential part of academics. So your self-esteem, your self-management, relationship building, healthy decision making, those sort of skills, जो generally life skills के नाम से जाना जाता है. So that is what we bring to the schools, but we bring it in a very different way. We work with the entire school setup. So we don't just go there and deliver something to the children. We work with the teacher. We work with the teacher then works with the student. We work with the school administrator. We work with the parents. Okay. So that entire ecosystem के साथ हम काम करते हैं. So whatever program we do, it is for the entire school, and the way we build it is to build the school so that after a point in time, say 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, the school is able to do all of this by themselves. उनके अंदर वो ingrained हो जाता है, and therefore they don't need us, because ultimately we are still a third party, right? We are not part of the system. Right. So our idea is to fit this within the system, and that's how we put this together. So we are a social enterprise focused around building social emotional learning for children in schools.
Currently, आपने कितने schools के साथ partner कर चुका है अभी तक?
So up until this year, basically we have partnered with about 525 schools. Wow. Across Telangana. That's across 11 districts of Telangana. And this year, basically, we are working with close to 200 schools. So if I count this year, it will be about 725 schools that we work with. So every year we work with about 200 schools.
Wow. That's a huge number. That's a very huge number. So how do you manage it? How do you manage to do that?
So one is that basically there is a team that does this. There is an entire organization. So we are a 22-member team, okay. And most of that team is the program delivery sort of team, right? And the way it is structured is that we've thankfully, due to COVID, we've also done a hybrid model. So a fair bit of our work happens virtually. So when we interact with teachers, we have WhatsApp channels, we have Google channels, and therefore we are able to sort of reach more at a lesser cost.
Okay.
So we have a field team, for example. So there's a program coordinator. So every program coordinator manages about 40 to 50 schools. So technically we have 4 coordinators basically who run 50 schools each.
Wow.
And because we do a hybrid model, in terms of the curriculum, in terms of, there's also a constant support stream that happens. So basically there's every month there are support systems that are available for teachers and for schools and for parents. But since a lot of this is now happening a little bit online, we've been able to extend that reach.
Right.
पहले basically about 20 schools managed होता था by one person, but now we're able to do 50 schools per coordinator.
A blessing in disguise, it seems.
It absolutely is.
Okay.
Correct.
So आपने बताया कि you have mentored approximately 700 plus schools right now. So how many children have you impacted so far? How many parents, peers, school administrators you have covered so far?
Okay. So again, I'll not count this year. So basically, it would be around 1.3 lakh children.
Wow.
Up until last year, and around 70,000 parents.
Wow.
Who we've been engaging with, constantly engage with the parents through IVRs, through phone calls, through meetings with them when they come to the school, etc. So that's kind of what we've been able to do so far.
So you have been managing all this number, huge number, 1 lakh plus students, 70,000 parents with a team of 22 people.
Yes, and well, if I take the team of 22 people, basically, actually there are only 6 people who are actually program delivery for these schools.
Right.
So it essentially between the 6 they are doing all of this. I would put it like that.
Wow, amazing. In this initial days जो आपने बताया, जैसे आपने पहले एक स्कूल के साथ शुरू किया था, अफोर्डेबल प्राइवेट स्कूल के साथ, राइट? सो उनके साथ आपने जो अपना मॉडल चलाया वो कितने टाइम ड्यूरेशन के लिए चलाया?
वो पूरे साल के लिए चला।
वो भी पूरे साल एक स्कूल के साथ।
The entire school year, एक स्कूल के साथ।
Then next year आपने फिर 5 स्कूल को टारगेट किया जो उनके वर्ड ऑफ माउथ के थ्रू, एंड लाइकवाइज आपका ईयर ऑन ईयर बढ़ता गया, राइट?
करेक्ट। Completely word of mouth से हुआ, and now we are also working with some same, वो जो 30-40 schools थे, जो private schools थे, वो अभी भी हमारे साथ काम कर रहे हैं। 4 साल हो गए, वो अभी भी हमारे साथ, they are continuing with us. So they are continuing with us, and the other public KGBV schools are also continuing with us.
So इसमें जो आप सोशल इमोशनल लर्निंग जो आप प्रोवाइड करते हैं, उसके लिए टाइम कितना देना पड़ता है स्कूल्स को, या आपको कितना टाइम देना पड़ता है?
So that's a great question, right? So the most important part for us basically was that ये जो हम social emotional learning की बात कर रहे हैं, वो स्कूल के टाइम टेबल में होना चाहिए। हमेशा हमारा वही प्रिंसिपल था कि ये आफ्टर स्कूल नहीं है, ये इन स्कूल का जो करिकुलम है, it should be part of the education system, so it has to be in the school. So right from day one, even with the government, even with private schools, we've said ये आपके स्कूल टाइम टेबल में होना चाहिए. And today I'm very proud to say basically that all our schools basically dedicate a minimum of 1 period a week in the school timetable to this.
Wow.
जहाँ पे in a dedicated manner the teachers are conducting social emotional learning sessions using our curriculum and our toolkits. Some schools even do 2 periods a week. Wow. So girls residential schools में 1 in the weekday होता है and एक Saturday पे करते हैं. So they do 2 sessions a week, right? And ये school timetable में government system में डालना मेरे ख्याल से बहुत बड़ी बात है.
Right. That's a huge leap. Right. So before that आपको teachers को train करने में कितना time लगता है?
So teachers को हम concurrently train करते हैं. So basically what happens, we do 2 workshops with them in the year. So 1 workshop at the start of the year, 1 workshop in the middle of the year. And every month basically we have what we call as a learning circle with teachers. जहाँ पे हमारा program team either goes to the school or virtually basically sits down with the teachers to understand how they are, what they are doing, how their own mental health is. Because ये teachers के लिए भी social emotional learning का component है, right? The logic was that basically you can't teach swimming through a textbook. सो अगर टीचर का ही सोशल इमोशनल स्किल कम है तो वो कैसे सिखाएंगे, राइट?
Right.
तो वी वर्क ऑन दैट. सो एवरी मंथ देयर इज अ वर्चुअल सेशन और an ऑफलाइन सेशन that happens. So the training is almost ongoing all the time. So
Lovely.
after these dedicated workshops, there is a support system that happens through the entire year.
Oh, lovely. By the way, so आपने जो करिकुलम स्टार्टिंग में बनाया था एंड जो करिकुलम अभी है, हाउ मेनी टाइम्स डिड यू पाइवट?
At least 3 times.
Okay.
At least 3 times. जो फर्स्ट ईयर का पायलट था, सो फर्स्ट ईयर में जब हमने पायलट किया था, we had only one curriculum for all grades. Because हमारे पास उतना knowledge नहीं था, तभी research was going on, so we didn't know, right? So we had one curriculum for all the grades, right? And then we said, no, it cannot be one curriculum for all grades, क्योंकि जब सेल्फ अवेयरनेस जो 8 इयर्स में होता है वो अलग है, और 15 इयर्स में जो सेल्फ अवेयरनेस होना चाहिए वो अलग है, because the child has grown psychologically. So then we started breaking that curriculum into age graded curriculum, etc. So पहली बार वो ट्रैश हुआ. फिर second time age graded curriculum किया. We did the implementation. Lot of feedback came कि content थोड़ा ज्यादा है, heavy हो रहा है टीचर्स के लिए, right, etc. So then वो हमने छोड़ा, and then we refined it into almost a teachable slides kind of a fashion, where we use a lot of illustrations and a lot of little text and gave it to teachers in an easy to consume manner. फिर एक बार जब इंग्लिश से तेलुगु में ट्रांसलेट करना पड़ा तो there was another content effort. So we translated the entire curriculum into Telugu and Tamil. तो 3 languages में है, तो जब ट्रांसलेशन किया तो there's another set of problems, right? Because ये contextually fit नहीं होता है, so then you have to do that. So at least 3 times we've revised the curriculum. And done that. So
अभी
that's
और
an ongoing.
रिविजन्स बाकी हैं कंटिन्यूअस इम्प्रूवमेंट में?
I think होता रहेगा, but now we don't do it every year, because now the curriculum has gotten stable हो गया in that sense. Unless we go to a different geography. So today, for example, we're discussing a couple of partnerships in Bihar, right? Basically, जहाँ पे हमारा curriculum we're going to test it.
In Bihar,
we're actually in Bihar, yeah. So we are discussing a partnership with an organization. We are not directly doing it, but we are partnering with an organization in Bihar to do it. We are piloting our curriculum in Africa. An NGO in Africa, in Malawi, Kenya, they want to take this curriculum. So when they implement it, they will probably find some challenges with contextualizing. So then we will contextualize for them. So we'll have different versions of that curriculum, right? Because most importantly, बच्चों को वो relatable होना चाहिए अपने context में, right? So that is the most important thing. So it will keep happening, I think, on an ongoing basis.
So yeah. If I have to ask you, where did you learn your main craft? Like, where did you learn this social emotional learning वाली चीज? तो आप उसका क्या कहेंगे?
I think I learned it from everybody, honestly, right? I think I would have certainly learned a lot of things from my own parents, for example. My dad is one of the most disciplined, most organized persons I've ever seen. My mom has got a tremendous work ethic. I've seen it from my friends. I've traveled around. I've interacted with so many people. So I think life is a great teacher. In that sense, right? A lot of things, and you learn a lot by doing the wrong things. Also, you learn what not to do. But I think life is one of your biggest teachers, right? And your experiences, and I think for me, basically, over the last few years, जब मैं corporate में था, शायद not so much, but I think over the last few years, by being in this, I have learned to slow down sometimes and actually think जो मैंने किया वो कैसे किया, मैंने क्यों किया. So that ability then basically teaches you some of that.
Right.
So I think I've learned a lot from almost everybody, I think. Right. So I don't think there's any one place, I guess.
Right. So any setbacks or failures that you faced in your initial days?
Oh, definitely, right? I mean, so for example, okay, funding was always a challenge, right? हमको कभी पता नहीं था कि इसको कौन fund करेगा, right? Because you need funding. You're not charging the public schools for it. So who's going to fund it, right? So finding those initial donors or granting agencies who would understand this concept is very difficult. तो वो थोड़ा था. कोविड के टाइम पे we had quite a few big challenges, right? So for example, and again related to funding. So for example, when COVID started, half of our committed money basically didn't come because that money got diverted to COVID. Which I understand, right? I think it's a donor's priority, right? So which I understand. But when that happened, basically, you had a plan to work with so many parents, and you still had to do that. Now you have a team. You also have to pay them. You have to have salaries to support. They have families to support. How do you do that, right? And that is a big challenge for us to sort of sustain that and manage that. But somehow we did. Somehow we did. I don't know how we did that. But we managed basically. Not a single person we asked them to leave. Everybody during the entire 2 years of COVID got paid full salaries on time. Somehow we managed. I don't know how, with I don't know God's grace, universe का support पता नहीं. But वो हुआ. So there were some setbacks like that. अभी आंध्र प्रदेश के government के साथ 1 साल आपने invest किया, and then that program didn't happen. So you say, "Arey, that was a great opportunity to have given this to the world, to a whole state." वो नहीं हो पाया. So sometimes that happens, right? I think there are these smaller setbacks. I see them mostly as speed breakers, a little bit. So you just keep going, right? वो एक देंगे आप और
रोलर
आगे
कोस्टर
बढ़ेंगे.
राइड है, अप एंड डाउन, वो तो चलता रहेगा.
वो तो चलता रहेगा. So you get something, you don't get something, and that is just a part of it. So yeah, it doesn't bother me that much now. पहले थोड़ा सा लगता था, but अभी लगता है कि this is how it is, right? And that's a part of the journey.
Right.
So yeah.
How did you raise your funding? How did you pitch to your funders, investors? आपने उन्हें कैसे start किया? The first one.
The first funding came from my friends.
Okay.
Honestly, right? I think when I said to my friends that we're starting this, etc., there were a couple of them basically who immediately said, "I will join. I will pitch in. I will sponsor some part of it, and I'll do it, etc." So वहाँ से शुरू हुआ. So friends initially started coming in as donors. Then basically for our we connected with Central Square Foundation. Central Square Foundation is based in Delhi, and they used to do a lot of grant making for innovative ideas like this. And then they took us in our portfolio, so we got added to their portfolio. So they gave us a grant every year to run the program. That really helped us a lot, because then you're getting a committed amount of money, unrestricted funding, to be able to build the program, right? I think that was a big thing for us. Then slowly, corporate organizations, we started reaching out, and it was tough to give this to tough for corporate organizations, because under CSR में basically most corporate organizations already have their very specific set sort of objectives. And this doesn't fit into a lot of objectives. Even under education में ये fit नहीं होता है. Education में भी काफी कुछ generally books में आता है, academic scholarships में आता है, but ये थोड़ा बहुत ज़्यादा हटके है. So it's always difficult for us to get corporate organizations. But over the last years, there have been like 2-3 organizations who have been supporting every year. So they've been continuing like that. So yeah, I think it's sort of slowly, it's kind of come in very slowly. And I think people who have understood the concept of it stay with us for a long time. They don't then go. So for example, I'll be very happy to say that Salesforce is one of our biggest supporters and contributors, and they've been with us. This is the 4th year that they've been supporting what we do, right? So वो होता है तो then they stay with us. So yeah, that's how it's been.
Okay, so what have you enjoyed the most about your journey so far?
So I think that apart from the obvious impact जो होता है, जो देखते हैं आपकी the children are progressing and they're doing all of that, I think for me personally, the one that has been most satisfying is building this team of people, right? And today learning curve is not me. Learning curve is basically that team. वो टीम है जो बेसिकली जो दिन में 100 पेरेंट्स से बात करती है, जो महीने भर बेसिकली वो रूरल डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स में जाके वो स्कूल में बैठ के बिना ट्रांसपोर्टेशन के वो जाके वो सब करते हैं. So to me basically the the most satisfying has been basically the fact that we've been able to bring such a team together. जो आज के तारीख में I think is probably in my entire 25 years basically is the most committed team that I have ever worked with.
Wow.
ऐसा टीम मैंने बहुत पहले कभी नहीं देखा. I've never been able to see such a team in any corporate organization. कहीं पे I've not seen such a committed team, and they will go out of their way. They'll go above and beyond to do what needs to be done, right? To the extent today that I would say that the team runs learning curve. I don't.
Okay.
So and the team is the learning curve is the team, right? So that has been the most, I think the most thrilling, the most satisfying for me, right? Because then मेरे पास ये assurance आज है कि अगर कल मैं as a founder रहूं ना रहूं, learning curve will still be there because there is a team running it. तो वो sustain होगा, तो वो confidence है. Right, so I think that's my response to that.
Amazing. So आपने भी टीम का बताया, so I would like to ask you कि till what time did you work alone with your wife, you, and like when did you start hiring people for learning curve?
So between 2014 and 16 जब हम लोग pilots वगैरह कर रहे थे, that was just us. We had a couple of volunteers come and go, but it was just us. 2016 में our first employee कहूँगा या first partner came on board, and she's still with the organization now, 6 years on. So she's still with the organization now, and she is now the head of partnerships for Learning Curve, right? So she came on board then, and then we started slowly sort of building the team. So as the program came on board, then the team started coming together, and I was always more interested in passion and potential, and only then credentials and background. So एक example देना चाहूँगा मैं. Basically our second person who came on board was this young guy about 20 years old when he joined us, and believe it or not, he used to work at a wildlife resort in Tadoba in Maharashtra.
Okay.
जब हम वहाँ पे गए थे, this guy was the working there as a naturalist etc. And उसका जो energy था, उसका जो potential था, इतना high लगा मुझे. I said, do you want to come to Hyderabad and work with me? And he saw that as an opportunity and he came, right? And he stayed with us for almost 4 years. And वो टाइम पे बेसिक ना ही उसका कोई डिग्री था, ना ही उसका कोई बड़ा सा बैकग्राउंड था, ना कुछ था, बट उसका जो एनर्जी था, उसका जो लर्निंग पोटेंशियल था, इतना हाई था कि वो सिंगल हैंडेडली हमारे लो इनकम प्राइवेट स्कूल्स को संभालने लगा. राइट, एंड वो इतना पॉपुलर हो गया स्कूल्स में कि अगर वो 1 महीना नहीं गया तो सारे स्कूल्स मुझे फोन करते थे और कहते थे कि आज सनत क्यों नहीं आया. राइट. So that is the sort of team that has come to build, this learning curve. So धीरे वो sort of build. 2016 we started. Now we're at that stage now.
Right. Wonderful, amazing. So one of the most memorable moment of your journey.
Okay, one of our most memorable moments basically मैं कहूँगा जो बहुत recently हुआ. एक लो इनकम स्कूल में जहाँ पे हम बहुत पहले से काम करते थे, ऑलमोस्ट लाइक स्टार्टिंग से, लाइक वहाँ पे there was a girl student. I think she was at that point in her 9th grade or 10th grade. At that 9th grade में थी शायद. So she had gone through the program for a couple of years.
Okay.
अभी 2 हफ्ते पहले basically when our team was there at that school, a lady came up to them basically and said, आप मुझे पहचानते हैं क्या? And they said नहीं, because they were also new. She said, मेरा नाम ये है and मैं 2016 में 9th grade में थी, आपके लर्निंग कर्व प्रोग्राम में थी मैं, और आज मैं ये स्कूल में टीचर बन के ज्वाइन हुई. So that to me is intensely satisfying, right? Because she said that मुझे इतना वो बेनिफिट हुआ कि मुझे लगा कि मुझे भी टीचर बन के वापस आ जाना चाहिए, एंड मुझे प्राइमरी ग्रेड से शुरू करना चाहिए इन बच्चों के साथ. सेम थिंग, आई शुड हेल्प देम एंड आई शुड डू दैट, राइट? सो इट्स ह्यूजली मेमोरेबल टू हियर थिंग्स लाइक दैट हैपन. तो वो आई थिंक बहुत ज्यादा मेमोरेबल मोमेंट है. एक और, आई मीन ऐसे बहुत से हैं, बट आई थिंक एक और जो मैं कहूँगा कि इज दैट when we received the Sakshi Media's Education Award, Excellence in Education Award for 2019 and 20, वो बहुत बड़ा recognition था हमारे लिए, that it was recognized as an award-winning sort of program. So that was a memorable moment for us to go there and sort of receive that. So yeah, there are many like that, but these are one or two that stand out for me.
Right. Wonderful. Amazing. So, knowing what you know now, would you have done things differently in the starting?
No, actually, no. I think I would have done similar things. I mean, I don't know what I would have done differently, right? I mean, uh, I think there has been a lot of that learning is organic and it has to happen anyway. Even if I take all my learnings now and start with that, there will be a different set of things. I don't even know what will happen because of that, right? So मुझे नहीं लगता कि मैं शायद बहुत अलग से कुछ करता था. I think we've done it fairly systematically. So I would still do it the same way. So I don't think I would do it. नहीं इतना कुछ अलग से नहीं करता.
Okay. By the way, आपने बताया था कि you are a pharmacist by profession, right? So how did you shift your focus to this learning curve SEL, and like when did you decide to start on this entrepreneurial journey?
So I mean, corporate life basically was for the first 15 years. Usually you're in the corporate rat race doing different things, etc. Right? But I think at the end of that time, during that time, basically I was head of program management. I didn't know where else I could go from there. So I didn't know where I was going from there. So which is why I then decided to sort of set up into consulting, and then I think for me basically a lot of my decisions have happened based on what my gut feel is. And sometimes my gut feel leads me to a certain path. So it was our gut feel that we went into that shelter home to volunteer, right? ये नहीं सोचा था कि volunteering करना है. So we went in there. The gut feel was that something was not working, so we asked those questions, and then it evolved from there. So I think I'm typically the kind of guy who likes to go with the flow, and when I go with the flow, and good things happen. And things happen if you keep that effort going. So I think that's how it has worked for me. So ऐसा कुछ इतना सोच समझ के नहीं किया था शायद, but things have happened, and I think I've done it with reasonably good intention. So it has gotten us here. I think that's all I can say.
Right. Wonderful. Okay, so currently what you are pursuing? अभी के next goals क्या हैं आपके? Are you working on something different, some another project, something like that?
Yes. So we're working on something very exciting. So based on all of our learning around social emotional skills, especially working with parents, etc., one of the big realizations was that parents today are also struggling with some of these behavioral challenges of children as they grow up. Especially in that same preteen and teen adolescent age, etc. But parents today, I would say even urban, middle class, high income parents, don't have access to very, very credible, trustworthy advice on what to do about it. Either internet पे search करना पड़ता है, and then you have to figure it out, या फिर therapy and counseling में जाना पड़ता है, जो किसी को नहीं जाना होता है, right? It doesn't make sense. So we are building a tech-based, a conversational AI-based product called Amiga, and Amiga is basically the parent's friend, philosopher, and guide at home. So Amiga basically brings the conversational intelligence into a parent being able to understand why a child behaves in a certain manner, provide them with certain solutions which are fairly tailored to their child, so that they can do it at home. And Amiga will also offer them a community of parents to be able to engage and interact, etc. So we are now building Amiga as a separate product and a separate initiative for that, and we've been just doing this for a few months, 6 months. We just designed the UI. We're working on the MVP to be able to sort of go out there in October, November, and really test it, see where it goes. So another new journey is starting.
This sounds exciting. This is really nice, because I think even the tier 1 parents also suffer from these questions, and if you are providing a personalized solution, then it can really help. When both the parents are working professionals, they get to spend little less time with their kids. So I think this could be a little bit quite a revolutionary thing. This could be, right. So what's in store for learning curve in the coming 5 years?
So in the coming 5 years, Ayush, I think we are going to focus very hard on collaborations and partnerships. So in the last 6 years of learning curve, what we've been able to do is build a very cost-effective, cost-efficient, very replicable and scalable model of social emotional learning, rather than just a program that we work with in schools, right? And because it has become that way, and we know that we cannot be everywhere, every school. Today, Telangana has 44,000 schools, and we are working in only 700 of them, hardly a drop in the bucket. So, we want to be able to grow partners and collaborations jahan pe we are able to bring this to their work, and therefore be able to scale it inorganically. So our entire focus over the next 5 years is going to be on how we scale this inorganically. And we might continue doing the same 11 districts or 20 districts or whatever it is, but wahan pe our focus will be on depth of impact. Wahan pe our focus will be on how deep the impact is, how much more we can iterate the program, how much more refined we can do it, how can we bring down the costings like that. So it's almost like keeping on iterating that model, but scaling it inorganically through collaborations, partnerships. So today we're talking to almost 10 different organizations across India and outside of India as well. कि ये program हम लोग how do we adapt it to your organization? How do we give you that? How do we help you implement it? So really, the next 5 years will be about that phase for us.
Right. Wonderful. Wonderful. Subbu, what is your definition of success?
Oh, great question. That I think my definition of success is when you are able to go to sleep peacefully and wake up fresh the next day morning.
Okay. Have you found success?
I have been sleeping like a baby for the last 5 years.
Wonderful. 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 So do you focus on your mental health as well?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I don't do very specific things for my mental health in that sense. But I have, at least over the last 5 6 years, even I have a great sense of work-life balance. I'll tell you why. Because I get into the office at 8:30 in the morning. I leave my office by 4:30 max.
Okay.
And when I come home, I don't work. I spend time with my daughter. I spend time doing different things. I sometimes spend time cooking, and I don't work on Saturdays and Sundays. And nobody in my team works on Saturdays and Sundays.
Okay.
We work 5 days a week, and that's all we do. Right? Because the clear mandate is that if you don't come in on a Monday morning feeling fully charged, then it's not worth it. Right. So that is what I do for mental health. Just take a break. And I travel. We go on holidays. We go on vacations. Long weekend मिला तो कहीं जाते हैं. Things like that, right? So we keep that variety, and I think that's what helps us.
Right. So for our listeners, if they would like to reach out to you, on what all platforms they can know about your work and connect to you?
Well, of course. I mean, our Learning Curve website is there. LinkedIn is there. Please reach out. Please reach out on LinkedIn. If you'd like to reach out to me on my phone number, feel free to WhatsApp me. And Ayush, I mean, if you'd like to put a number out there, I'm quite happy. That's okay. I'm quite active on WhatsApp. At least Monday to Friday, I'm active. उसके बाद का भरोसा नहीं है. But yeah, I mean, please reach out on LinkedIn or pretty much anything that works for you, honestly, right? And I'm happy to provide some of that detail if you want, Ayush, and just feel free to do that.
Okay. Wonderful. Wonderful. Subbu, what's one thing you can mentor people on?
Uh, I think the one thing I can definitely mentor people on is around building an organization. And that is something that I can mentor them on how to build teams that have teams that are so committed, how to build teams that are passionate, how to build teams with great cultures. And that is something that I'm now confident of being able to do. So I can definitely mentor someone on that, and I can say that safely because we Learning Curve just got Great Place to Work certified. So we're also a Great Place to Work organization now. So I can safely say that I can mentor somebody on that. उसका certificate भी है मेरे पास.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Okay. So we are in the end game now. Last couple of questions. All right. So what is the missing spice in the startups? What is one thing that is missing in current startups?
I think one of the things that is missing in the current startup world is the right kind of metrics to measure yourself by. Right? As a startup, whether I'm a social enterprise kind of a startup or a for-profit startup, we are often told to measure ourselves by how much funding we have raised or what is your annual budget. Right? But your valuation is not your startup. Right? What value you are building is what should be the true metric that we should measure ourselves by. तो मुझे लगता है कि वो स्टार्टअप वर्ल्ड में फाउंडर्स वांट टू डू इट, but then the external world doesn't always let them do it. Right? The external media is all about how much funding somebody has raised or कितना external awards मिला है, कितना grant मिला है. It's that sort of thing, right? But impact कितना है, क्या build कर रहे हो, क्या value build कर रहे हो. अगर आप उससे measure करोगे अपने आप को, then I think you will eventually build that, right? तो मुझे लगता है कि वो spice फाउंडर में है, बट वो कैसे उसको पूरे ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में उसको कैसे वो करते हैं. आई थिंक दैट इज गोइंग टू बी समथिंग दैट शुड बी इंटरेस्टिंग.
Right. Okay. One last question. For budding entrepreneurs, what is the perfect startup recipe? How should they start about it?
I will go with what Nike's tagline is, which is just do it.
Just do it. Wonderfully said. Wonderfully said.
There's no other way. If you have an idea, go out there and do it. Every idea has a place. Just go out there and do it. As simple as that.
Okay. That was it, Subbu. It was very nice having this great, amazing conversation with you. I learned so much about Learning Curve. I learned so much about how you are helping people in the low-income sector. And thank you so much for being here, Subbu.
Thank you, Ayush. Thank you for a very enjoyable Saturday morning conversation. I really appreciate what you're doing. Thanks again for having me.
Thank you so much.